So that is the first form of the Gematria. The second form of the Gematria is very interesting. It's called Mispar Hakidmi. It is the cumulative value. So the letter Aleph is worth 1, but the letter Beis is worth 3 because it's the 1 and the 2. And so you see the Aleph Beis here on the bottom where I'm pointing. Hopefully you can see it, and the 3. Okay, and you see that. And then you have Aleph Beis Gimel. So the Gimel is worth 6 because it's 1 plus 2 plus 3. The Yud is worth 10. I mean, the Dalet is worth 10. The Yud is what I did here is I reproduced exactly what appears in his Sefer in exactly this form. I skipped a whole bunch of in between. Aleph Beis, Aleph is just 1, but the Beis letter is 3. The Gimel letter is 6. The Dal letter is Yud. The Hey letter is 15. And then it goes on. So the Resh letter is way up here. Okay, it's 395. 795. And the Shin is 1095, and the Tuf is 1495. And it's interesting that he uses an Aleph here. And this is one of the earlier things that I found about using place notation in Chazal, because they don't usually deal with numbers that big. So I'm pretty sure he did not refer to it as place notation, but because it appears in the beginning, I think he just uses an abbreviation for an Aleph. At least that's what I saw someplace too. So I don't want to start ascribing and saying he was into the Hindu-European system, which he obviously was, but at that time, but in terms of place notation, he was aware of that. But it's interesting that appears that way. And so the number MS, the word MS, comes out to 1641. Okay, and now we go to the third form, and that's very interesting because that's the form Mispar Hechrechi, which is like, you could translate Hechrechi as essential, the normative. This is the standard value. I'll call it the regular value, the standard value. This is the number that we're always used to. Aleph is 1, Mem is 40, and Tuf is 400, adds up to 441. It's interesting that Moshe Cordovero only mentions this third in his list. I'm not 100% sure why. I mean, I don't even have a theory why, except my theory is there might be some increasing level of mystical significance, but I don't know that at all. It's just a thought that I had. But he still calls what we refer to as Gematria. When I asked you before this shir today, what's Gematria? You would say, well, this is how you do Gematria. This is it. But it really is only the third one that he mentions. Okay. Muspar Musafi. This is where my pet peeve comes in. Muspar Musafi, the added value. And this is where we understand, and before I show you what it is, I want to explain a little bit. It is a way for us to explain, to say, Mispar Musafi, this is the word, the letter of each word has some value because it's in a word. So therefore, the word MS, which is 441, as you can see from item 3, becomes 442 because the word itself counts. And in what we call this is kollel. Kollel is a group of people learning nowadays, but kollel is just simply an aggregation, a grouping. So the grouping of the letters together count as one. And sometimes each letter, a different variation, counts as one extra because it's sitting in a group. Because the letters Aleph, Mem, Tuf are sitting in the single group, they each get an additional value, an additional number. So MS, which was 441, becomes either 442 if you talk about the word kollel, or 444 if you talk about the letter kollel. There is also something which is not mentioned by Moshe Cordovero, but it's clearly used, and something called the phrase kollel. Because the word or the concept is sitting in one whole phrase, the whole phrase together counts as a kollel. So it can be increased by 1. And my pet peeve is when people say, oh, the Gematria comes out to this, and you can be off by 1. Technically, you can't be off by anything. You need a reason by which the fact that 66 and 67 are not the same. And the answer is because you can use the kollel, or the phrase kollel, or the letters kollel, to come up with slightly different variations. But again, the concept has to be that it's not something, again, for brachos and sheva brachos, fine, no problem at all. But please don't say, anyone who ever does this again, don't say you can be off by 1. You can say there's a Gematria rule that counts the kollel, the kollel rule that you can have an additional one that counts the word or the phrase or the letters, each one themselves, and you can be off by one. So yeah, you leave with anything on Gematria, that should be it. Okay. My favorite, actually, though, is the next one. And it's good because it's mathematically oriented. Mispar hamarubah haklali. And basically, it means the collective square value. So I'll tell you exactly how this works, okay? Exactly how this works, and then I'll give a little more explanation. MS is 194,481. Not exactly clear, but if you take your calculators and take 441 and square it, you'll get 194,481, if I've done my math right, okay? And that's this idea. Why? Why? Where does this come from? How could you just jump ahead and say, well, I'll just square the numbers? And I think the beauty of why this is there, I think, is something that is worth looking at. I'm going to jump off of these right now and go to the next page, because this is actually from my thesis itself. Mispar hamarubah haklali, the collective square value. Okay, the standard value of the word is squared. It's trivial to calculate, but it's an interesting rationale. And I'm going to read while I'm scrolling it up. Each letter in a word, in light of its being contained in the word, represents a power of itself magnified by the entire word. So what that means is, because here we have a group of, I don't know how many, 20 people or 17 people last time I just saw, or whatever. So because we're in this group learning together, if you will, it's our little kollel here, our KINS math STEM kollel. We are magnified by the fact that there are others in here. Each one of us is contributing something. In Zoom, it's more significantly difficult to do, but each one of us is contributing something to the others. And therefore, my interaction with everybody in the room, everybody in the group counts. Steve Karras, Dr. Karras's interaction with everyone in the group counts, okay? So everybody who's here has an interaction with everyone in the room. So when we calculate the value for a particular letter, L1, so we use the value of the letter V1, which is the standard value for that, L sub I, V sub I. So we're talking about the individual letter. It's multiplied by the total standard value of the word. So we get the first letter, the value of the first letter, times T, which is the value of all of it together. Now, if we take the sum of all of these V sub I, of all letters, we get V, the value of the first letter times the total of everything, plus the value of the second letter times the total of everything, plus the value of the third letter total of everything, all the way up to the value of the last letter times the total of everything. And if you factor out T from this equation here, you get V1 plus V2 plus V3. And this is, what is this? This is just T. This is just the value of all the numbers. So the left is ST, so we have T times T, or T squared. And so that's the rationale behind getting the understanding of each letter, taking the full amount and squaring them. Okay, let's jump back now to what I had up there. Okay, so that's Mispar Hamrubah Haklali. That was number 5. Okay, number 6. The individual square letter, Mispar Hamrubah Haprati. This just means that the value of a word is the sum of the squares of the individual letters. It's a different mathematical process, whereby each number is squared, is magnified by itself, by nature of it, again, being part of the entire word, but only because it itself has this extra power. So the power isn't the result of what the other words, what the letters add, what the other letters add. It's a power of what it itself adds because it's dealing with other words. So this gets to be very large also. The individual square value, okay? And then we have something which is like very out there. Mispar Shimi, okay? Mispar Shimi, which is the name value. The name value is because each letter of the word can be expressed by a Hebrew word. Names have meaning and significance. This is a lesson that we certainly can walk away with from here. And names have significance. Okay, each letter of the word can be expressed by a Hebrew, each letter of the word we're looking at can be expressed by a Hebrew word. So then what we do is we take the expression of that word, MS, which is Aleph, Mem, Taf, and we get the regular Gematria of Aleph, Mem, Taf, we add them together, and this becomes Mispar Shimi. So it's not the value of the word as it is the letters, it's the value of the names of the letters, okay? And now we complicated one more step.
The names of the letters.
The names of letters. Okay. We complicated one more step. Mispar mispari, the numbers value. And it's easier to see how this works than to explain it. MS is 140 and 400. That's the standard Gematria. We take that MS 140 and 400 and we find the Hebrew word for that name. Echad arbaim arba meos. We then take the regular Gematria of that word. Echad is 13, arbaim is 323, arba meot is 720. 1056 is the mispar mispari, form 8 value for the word MS. Because you take the value, you turn it into that. And then the last one, save the best for last. See number 7, see number 8, we combine the two. Again, it's easier to see how this works than to try to explain it. Mispar mispari gadol, and it does become a very large number. So this is spelled out like this. We start with the word MS, and we say MS is Aleph Mem Taf, just like we did in Form 7. And then what we do is we say, well, Aleph is Mea v'achad asar, Mem is Shmonim, and Tav is Arba Meos v'Shiva. Okay? And then we take that, the Gematrias of those words, 635, 446, and 1103. And so you see, pull this down a little bit, you see that this is actually a combination of 7 and 8, and you end up with 2184. Not as astronomically large as some of the others, but still, it's a very interesting number. So now, what did I do? I have 9 forms. Actually, there are 10 because I had this one. I used 2 different versions of it, with the kollel for the letters and the kollel for the word. And sometimes I had to figure it out. And I said, okay. I told Dr. Bad, now I want to take, now that I've analyzed the Gematria notations of the Balaturim, of the Moshe Cordovero, I want to use that to see if I can make sure that the Balaturim numbers, if I can find those matches in the Balaturim. Okay, so he said, great. So I started that project. And I have to tell you, I started from Bereshis. That's the next screen. I started from Bereshis, and I went all the way through Vayeshev, 36 prakim. And then after I did all that for 36 prakim, Dr. Rabbi said, "You've proven your point." And I went home going, "Oh God, thank you so much. I did not want to keep this. Very tedious, because every single phrase had to be typed in. If I'm not mistaken, it had to be typed in backwards. So I had to write it up and type it in backwards. We're really talking, we're so used to everything that can be done on computers, but in the 80s with the Commodore 128 computer and having to load Hebrew graphics all the time, I was very happy when he was satisfied that I got far enough to prove the idea. He says, one day you'll continue. I don't know. Maybe someone will continue. It's not going to be me, probably. Anyway, so I took the first. Let's just look at the first 5 Bereshis. Okay, everyone's familiar with that, right? Bereshis, B'Elokim, Hashemayim, Ha'aretz, V'Aretz, Ha'Sosai, and that's it. Okay. And I took some of the Gematrias, and I went through every single Gematria. I'm not showing you every single one here. Everything Gematria that's brought down that's cited by the Balatur. So the first one's pretty nice, okay? We actually talked about it. The first one is this, and this is actually the printout that came, not the circles. The circles is what I drew by hand. Okay, the printout came from Bereshis, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Daled, what we have up here. Vayar, I have it right here. Vayar Elokim. Wait a minute, are you seeing my screen? What? Okay, good. Vayar Elokim Kitov. Vayar Elokim es or Kitov, and he saw the light, and it was good. Where did Hashem look? Vayar es or Batorah. Okay, so that's the pshat that he read in the Torah, and it's interesting that it comes up to 613. Torah is 611. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about an interesting thing about that, but Torah is 611. But as a orc, but Torah, they both end up to 613. So these are from left to right. These are the different forms of the Gematria. This is the Mispar Katan, and this is the cumulative value, and this is the regular value, and this is with Kollel 1 for this is 1 for the word. This is 1 for the let's see. This is 1 for the letters, and this is 1 for the word. Okay. Because there's 2 words and there's 4 letters. We didn't do, I had to do 1 for the kollel. When I was off by 1, I had to say that he was using the phrase kollel. Remember, Moshe Cordovero didn't mention it, but didn't stop Balaturim from including the phrase kollel. And these are some of the bigger ones up there. Very few of these, I think, really generated, but some of them did generate a little help down the road. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, also from the same section, or Yom, Vayikra. Wait a minute, where am I? Up here, the last pasuk. Vayikra Elokim la'or Yom v'lachoshech kor laila. Hashem called Or the light day, and he called the darkness night. Day and night. So day and night. So what do we see from the Gematria? Or Yom, and it's a Gematria, Ze Yaakov Avinu. This is Yaakov Avinu. So he tells us the Or Yom is Yaakov Avinu. So who do you think Choshech is? If you could talk, everyone would jump up. Sure enough, Yaakov is Esav. Lila is Esav. So what we're seeing here is that the Balaturim is giving us a little bit of an explanation of what he's trying to draw out, is that the God at that time, he called Or Yom, it refers to say Yaakov Avinu, and Kor Laila comes up to Esav. And you see that these gematrias, if they appear in the third column in both places, is just a simple gematria that we've had. Okay, the first, I'm not going to jump back up there. Everyone knows the first two words of the Torah is Bereshis Bara. Bereshis Bara, Rabbi Yaakov Balaturim tells us is 1120 with the Kolel 4 words. It's 1129, and that adds up to Barosh Hashana Nivra. And that's if you add the phrase Kolel. So this is how my whole analysis started, because I was always interested in Gematria, and I said I'd read through the Balaturim, and then from time to time I'd sit down and with a pencil and paper or a calculator, and then it was mostly pen and paper, I guess, and I'd try to see if the Gematrias work, and sometimes they didn't work. But here we have with the phrase Kolel where it works. In other words, one's 1129, one's 1128, but they don't match at any other number. So. And then one of my favorite examples from this, back in the pasuk, in the second pasuk, it says Avoretz Hosasvohu Vavohu, that it was complete emptiness, the land, and the Choshech al Pnei Tehom, and it was all darkness. Ruach Elokim Merachefes al Pnei Hamayim, and the Spirit of God blew over, was flowing over, was blowing over the face of the water. Ruach Elokim Merachefes, and when you look in Ruach Elokim Merachefes. When you look in Ruach Elokim Merachefes, it comes out to whatever it is, 1034 in the regular count, 1037 with the Kolel, 1048. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you what it is right away. I'm going to tell you what the Mikros Gedolos that I was looking at said. It says Ruach Elokim Merachefes. It says Zu Rucho Shel Mashiach. Zu Rucho Shel Mashiach. Zo Rucho Shel Mashiach. This is the spirit of Mashiach. Okay, wonderful. So, Ruach Shel Mashiach, 4 words. I punched in those 4 words. I went on those 4 words. There was no way it was going to work. And if you look in, not the more modern ones, but you look in some old gematrias, you're going to see it. That's the way it works. The Ruach Shel Mashiach. It's just not possible. Okay, it just the numbers don't add up at all. The numbers don't add up at all. So I did look into 3 different types of Mikros Gedolos I was using. And one of them, if you remember, it was a Pardes, so kind of a long edition. Often we see it with Tanakh, but there's also a Chumash. That one, the editors obviously spent a lot more time going through the manuscripts and removing some of the editing. If your whole point is just to give you an idea, it doesn't make a difference. But if you want to make sure that the Gematrias work, you got to do exactly what the Balaturim wrote. And so when you look at that one, it's far, and some of the modern ones that I have now say it as well, Zohi Rucho Shel Melech HaMashiach. It actually explains exactly what. There's some additional words. So yes, you could remove the word he, and you can remove the word melech, okay, and get the idea that Ruach Elokim Merachefes is referring to the Mashiach, but it doesn't add up. But it adds up if you look at the one edition that I had at the time, and as I say, it's more prevalent now. Zohi Rucho Shel Melech HaMashiach. This is the Ruach of the Melech HaMashiach. Okay. That takes care of that. Then I have, I can go through a few little things. I don't have slides. I can just talk about them. And I would like to, if I have another few minutes, I don't know, Dr. Karish, are we doing okay with time? I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. You are muted. Shtika Kahoda, so I have another hour, you're saying? Yeah, another hour to lecture? No problem.
I would actually say if you have another 5 minutes and can finish, that would be fine. We've already.
Okay, fine. All right. So yes, I do. I want to at least touch base, and maybe at a future time I'll be able to give a little bit more, but at least touch base on a few of the places where we see Gematria is brought down in Halacha and Gemara and Poskim and so on. There's a Gemara in Shabbos that says, it talks about the Lamates Malachas, the 39 prohibited things that you could do on Shabbos. And it says, Moshe has called Das B'nai Israel, Ela Hadavorim. These are the words. And these are the words. So the Gemara tells us, Ela Hadavorim. What does that mean? Hadavorim means two. In other words, the word Devorim means plural, so there's at least two items. The Hey in Hadavorim implies one more. So there's one more than two. And then it says Ela in Gematria is 36. So 36 plus the two implied by the word Devorim, Hadavorim meaning there's one more thing than that, adds up to 39. And that is how, a hint. And whenever we get into Gemara, I have to say these are all hints. The Gemara, the halacha is very clear, but the Gemara sometimes and others talk about hints. One thing which seems to be a little stronger than a hint, okay, but not really, because as we'll talk about, is the fact that when someone becomes a nazir, he takes on Nazirut, he's not going to get his haircut, he's not going to drink wine, and so on. And he doesn't say how long that time would be. So the Gemara in Nazir says that the Mishnah says, Stam Nazirus, if someone just says, I'm going to be, if someone says he wants to become a Nazir, then it's, without saying the length of time, it's 30 days. How do you know this? Because it says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Kadosh Yihiyah, he will be holy, Yihiyah, Yud Hey, Yud Hey, 10-5, 10-5. In Gematria, Yud Hey, Yud Hey, adds up to 30. And because of that, then that means that if we don't have any other time that the person making the statement says he's going to be there for Nazirus, it means 30 days. The Rambam, in his Parish of Mishnayos, and this is important to understand, Ze'enyin Mekubal. This is an doesn't mean Kabbalah here, I don't believe it. It's an accepted understanding that it's 30 days. It's something that's a tradition, maybe from Kabbalah, but it's an accepted law. V'amnam, but smach lezeh al derech siman. Smach means some kind of hint to this, some kind of way of relying on it. So we rely on it through this siman. The Rambam calls us a siman. It's a sign. It isn't the source of the halacha. It's just once we know the halacha is 30 days, we have a way of remembering it. Okay? The Rosh establishes it as a general principle. He says, "Yir the Gemara Gemirela va'asmuche han Gematria." That the Gemara, there's a way it learns it. It knows the halacha, and in order to remember it, it uses the Gematria. And the Rosh says the lav mi yud gimel midos he Torah nidreshet behem, because it's not one of the yud gimel midos that the Torah is learning. One of the things that I did in Shilas and Shuvas, okay, talked about a very interesting discussion about the Lamed Vav Tzadikim. So why the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, we can find a remez in a pasuk, because it says in Sanhedrin, because there are no fewer than 36 righteous people in this generation who have an ability to greet the Shekhinah, the divine presence, because it says Ashrei kol chochei lo. Happy are those who wait for him, lo. And lo is 36. So what is the significance of 36? So in response, we find the following. The word Torah is equivalent, as we talked, to 611. Bat Torah is 613, but Torah is 611. So why is Torah equal 611 if there's 613 mitzvahs by itself? And the explanation is that the first two of the Aseres Dibros were not taught by Moshe, they were taught by the Rabbanu Shalom. They heard them, the Bnei Israel heard them directly from Hashem. And as a result, those 611 were the ones that Moshe Rabbeinu taught. So the Moshe Rabbeinu taught. But out of the 611, okay, the concept is there's 611. Even though, it's interesting, even though the first two weren't taught, we're still talking about the number 611. And with the Anochi Hashem needs to be from the original 613. The Anochi Hashem, the first one, needs to be pulled out sometimes because the Anochi Hashem is an overarching commandment. It's singled out as the yesod, as a foundation, as an ikar, as an important part in the belief of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So the number of commandments left after that we fulfill as a nation, after we have the belief in Hashem, is 612. And so if you take 612 and you divide it by 7 and 36, you end up with 17. 612 is also the value of the word bris, you take 612 divided by 17, and you end up with, divided by 36, you end up with 17. 36 times 17 is 612. So Rashi says that the tzaddik, imru tzaddik kitov, just as a tzaddik is someone who fares well, someone who does good, is a person who's a tzaddik, is a person who does good. Tzaddik and tov. So they're lamed vav tzaddikim because each one brings tov. And how does he do it? Through the 612 commandments that we have to understand. Okay, 613 we have to fulfill, but the first one is overarching, 612 that are done after we understand the yesod of belief in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And I'll finish up by going back to what the Even Ezra says, that it's nice drushes, but the Torah ain't a kosa medaber begematria. The Torah was not written in Gematria. Yochel harotz lahotzi kol shem latov l'zra rak hashem kishmashmal. Everything should be understood in the Torah the way it's written. Ibn Ezra doesn't suffer the use of Gematria. It doesn't want to adhere to it at all. As I said, there's the 32 principles of Rabbi Lazar Beno Shel Rabbi Yossi Aglili. I don't know. Does it mean 30 is a nazir because of that, because of this? I don't know. The ultimate evaluation is the realm of Kabbalah. It's, as I started, I'm not a makubal. I'm not an expert by a billion measures of degree. So it's just a question that this is what's out there. May one day we be zochas, that some of us in the world should be able to reach that level of kedusha and maybe even answer that question of the true value of gematria. And that's that.
Okay, good. If you would be kind enough to stop the screen sharing for a moment.
Right.
And if anyone has a question for Rabbi Isenberg, please unmute yourself and you may ask him your question.
There we go.
See what I mean? How your picture is full
Yeah,
screen. It should have been the same thing.
okay. Any questions from anyone? If not, then if you'll just give me one moment. I want to thank all of you for participating today in the conference. I hope you enjoyed it. The next STEM meeting will be 2 weeks from today, September the 8th. The topic will be the anatomy of bad midos, the intersection of psychology and Torah, and will be presented by Chicago clinical psychologist Rabbi Yehuda Krohn. Except for schedule interruptions due to the Yom Tovim, we hope to resume on a weekly basis in September, and you will, of course, be notified periodically of upcoming Zoom meetings. Again, thank you all for your participation. And thank you very much, Rabbi Isenberg, for a very fascinating presentation on Gematria.
Thank you. That was great, Jerry. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shayach, thank you.
Turn it on.